Hi, in previous videos I show how I change from MVC architecture to multi-layer architecture pattern. I show you and explain the solid principles and how apply to our example, and show how implement the DTO pattern, the data transfer object, and I implemented the validation in the application to validate our data in the DTO objects. I show how you can expose interfaces in the service layer to communicate to a layer of the application. Now I'm going to implement testing for our application, testing in the different layer, in the data layer, services layer, control layer. And before do this, I'm going to show how you should implement the error handling using aspect-oriented programming to catch the error and send to the user or the application that receive the response in a best or more handy way. Okay, with that in mind, let's start. In previous videos, I show how to create the validation for the different DTOs that we have. In this case, I created this annotation to tell to our application that this data or this attribute is not blank allowed. This show or send the error here to our API, sending the status 400. And if you look at this error, it is not easy way or is the best way to show the error to our users. For that reason, I'm going to use the specification to send the error message and to the users. This specification, the 9457, tells us that we should send a problem details object, and inside this object we should have the type, status, title, details, and instance attributes. Let's implement these details objects in our application. First, let's go to our application, and here in the details, let's create the problem details .java. Here I'm going to create a record, and inside this record we need to define the type, the status, the title, the detail and instance. Now this type is the type URI from java.net. Okay, this status code is an int. This is a title, is a string, and here the details is another string, and we defined the problem details. Let's change to problem details DTO. Change to DTO. Okay, let's save and define it. Now we have the object that we are going to return to our users, but to define the exception handler, we need to create the class. For that, I'm going to create the error package, and inside I'm going to define the generic error handler, error.java, generic error.java. Okay, and here I'm going to create a class, and inside this class I'm going to define that this is a controller advisor class, And here with this I'm going to I am telling to the Spring framework that this class should or receive the errors that I'm going to define in the methods. To define these errors in the methods, the way that I'm going to do is declare the method public method, okay, and the return value is a response entity, and this response entity is or responds to the object that we create, DTO problem details DTO, this one. Okay, perfect. Now this method, I change the name to error, and the error that we want to catch is this one, and this error is this named method argument not valid exception. Let's copy and paste for the name, and here we copy again. Let's copy the method argument not valid exception. Okay, method argument not valid exception, and let's to import this exception, and here we defined the method argument and not valid exception method. Now we need to return null to avoid the exception, and let's to define that this method is return an exception or is an exception handler. Okay, this one, and the type of the exception is the exception method, this one, that class. Perfect. We define it, or we say to a Spring framework that we are going to define this method to catch all the requests or error that have this kind of error. Now to define this error, we need to define the problem details DTO, and here I'm going to create a new problem details DTO. Here the type is an URI that create, and here we should put the URL that we want the user go to see the details of the errors. For example, in this case, I created previously a web page, 𝗜𝗺𝗃𝗃.github.com/ let me remember, it's error, or yes, help center hotel app.html. I think it is one. Let's check it out. That github.io. Okay, here we go. And this web page is the page that we are going to redirect to the user to check more in depth the kind of error, and the user can go to this page and check what is the error in details. Let's copy and paste here, and now let's to define the next attribute. It is status. Let's put the status excuses. Let's put I'm going to use the enumeration for the HTTP status, HTTP status code, http status code. HTTP response, I think. Response. That, no, it's an enumeration. I don't remember the name. HTTP status code. Here we go. HTTP status that bad request. Okay. That value to get the int here. Here you can see this method return the int value for the code. The title is the validation error. Okay, for the details, I'm going to get from this error the details for the different errors, because it could be one error or many errors. To get all errors, let's define the list of errors. And here I'm going to define a list of a string of errors. Okay, and here I'm going to get from the get binding results method the attributes or the fields types, the fields errors, field errors with the description of the errors, and let's to iterate over this using the map. And here we have the error. I'm going to use this lambda expression to get the code status, the code, and the message. Separator and the message plus e that get the found message that to list. Perfect. Now let's to modify these two dates. Here we should concatenate these errors. We have this string utility to join, and the delimiter should be this one, and the errors. Okay, and the instance. Okay, we need to get the path of the request. I'm going to use the web request object, get request object or interface web request to get the URL. Change to web request that get descriptions, and here we define if we want to include the client info. Let's do false. Let's to say false, and save. Now to return this problem details object, we need to define a new response entity that status, and here we can use the same bad request status, and we can use the status in the error and the method error handler, and get status code. Perfect. And here let's to define the body. The body should send the problem details object. Okay, cool. I think it is the definition of the method. Let's test. Let's run again and wait to load the application. Go to test here, and let's run the get to get all the request. It is not loaded. Okay, started the service. And here I don't have the object or the attribute for the name, and I'm going to send this request. Cool. And you can see this sent the 400 error, and here return the information that we defined in our method error handler. And this is the way that we use the AOP to get all the errors of our application. I'm going to show you here the same apply for the error or the generic error. Let's copy this one, and here I'm going to define that this exception handler is for the generic error. Okay, and copy here. Public response, this the same problem details DTO, and the error is this is error exception method, and here we have to define the exception. Let's change to exception. Now let's to check. We don't have this error list. I defined the same for the type of the error. Here I want to define a generic error. It is the server or internal server error. Internal server error is the code, and here I don't have the error list. I'm going to change to get the description or the message, and here are the internal server error. Perfect. And here I'm going to change to get the status. Okay, I need to call to the same HTTP status enumeration to get the internal server error that failed. Perfect. And this is the way that we define our exception methods, and here we can send this information to, for example, to another services, save in the database to save the records of the errors of the application, and you can send this information to another API or another system. Cool. With this we finished the error handler.